allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening, everyone. You're still waving, Karen?
Shivering. She's shivering.
She's waving or she's shivering, one or the other. All right, call the meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. And at this point, we'll move to item number 3, public comment. Is there any public comment? Please come forward. We'll go with, well, Jamie, you can go first. Go ahead. Okay, come on up. Please state your name and address for the record and speak into the microphone.
Well, that's usually what they.
1984.
Good. My kids graduated high school.
I was going to say.
Judy Simpson, 5 Walnut Street, Seymour, Connecticut. I'm chairman of the Seymour Culture and Arts, and in your packet tonight you'll find a letter that we had sent. We came before you several months ago about a sculpture that we wanted to put in front of the train station. Well, it's going to be too expensive to do the electrical, and so Dennis said to me if we could change our spots. So we wrote to Kurt, and he offered us a few spots. The best one was the Broad Street Park over to the side where there's no lights because this is illuminated. And we just would like to go forward with the Parks Department and to know that we can have this there because we do want to do another one in the future for the walkway.
Greenway Trail.
So, and they're going to, I understand, put electricity in there ahead of time so we won't come up with this problem. So I just hope we get everybody's okay.
Okay. And Karen, we can discuss the question you have during Fred's report. Just because we can't because it's public comment. Okay. But I know what you're going to ask, and we can discuss it during Fred's.
I'm done.
Yep. Thank you, Mrs. Simpson. Is there any other public comment? Jamie, come on up.
Jamie Brennan, 124 Bungay Road. Got a couple items I wanted to bring up. The first is the current reval that's going on. I received a letter from the assessor looking for my DRS documentation for my farm. No problem. I brought it down. I says, you know, we just did this a few years back. He says, well, we're doing it as a part of reval, but that he could do it anytime. I said, that's fine. I submitted my stuff. I called a local realtor when I got back home to get an appraisal for my property in preparation of my assessment appeal, as in 2011 when it was done last. The residence and the residential lot are at 200% of market value. In speaking with that realtor, they assured me that there is no reval going on at this time, or they would know about it. She gave me a name of an assessor. They didn't have a license anymore to contact who was licensed. I contacted him. He said, Seymour is not doing a reval at this time. I says, oh, well, maybe the assessor just told me that. When I was in dropping off my tax information for the farm, I saw the realtor. We had a discussion, you know, as to if I had contacted, you know what, and she thought there was nothing going on. I turned to the assistant assessor and I said, when's reval? And said they're doing it right now. I said, why did nobody receive notices? She says, I don't know. I says, when are we going to do inspections? I was told there will be no inspections. The realtor asked, how are you going to have it done for October 1st? It was acknowledged that it won't be done for October 1st, but that it will be done, it'll be effective October 1st. People aren't going to get their new assessments until they get their January bill, which I don't know if it's irony or tragedy, comes in after elections for some reason. I don't know if that has something to do with it. But why, you know, with our affinity to code red system and notifying that some function is going on downtown, or which street is being paved, you know, why do we not notify taxpayers that at this time reval is being conducted? Perhaps somebody can enlighten that fact when we get to public comments or whatever. The other item I'd like to speak to is the transfer from the general fund for the workman's comp for the Board of Education. To the best of my research, all I could find was from the minutes of July, the board, you know, saying that last year, it was like, it said last year, the Board of Education had, over expenses. It doesn't say whether it was incurred last year. I was looking at the community center on another note, looking at, public buildings that we could consolidate and how they're being used. A person working there told me she thought it went back 10 years. I'd like to hear some explanation as to, what was the cause for all this workman's comp over expenses. And obviously it's should go to a town meeting, for a transfer of that size. But I'm concerned with the precedent of creating an inter-service or interagency, whatever you want to call it, fund. If we just underfund stuff for the Board of Education, is a precedent seems to be set at that point. If we just transfer the money, that the money will be made up from the budget, and the fact that, I read consistently that the town had $100,000, plus or minus, whatever it was, surplus. I thought it was in the general fund, but that surplus was just the reserve from what wasn't spent on workman's comp by the town at this time. Is what I got from those minutes of July. So in any case, what caused all this workman's comp? Have we done, is it something that was like negligent that the town needs to address? Who was it, when was it incurred, who was it incurred by, and what have we done to address the underlying problem? Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Is there any other public comment? All right, Mr. Flynn.
Yes, Michael A. Flynn, 85 Skokerat, Seymour, Connecticut. I was wondering, would this fall under the town ordinances or not? I think something's got to be done in this town about chimeneas. I get up mornings, sometimes 1:30 in the morning, these things are burning. You can't even breathe. I mean, we'll all wind up a bunch of asthmatics the way this is going. These people keep these things going, and that's like smoking 20 packs of cigarettes when you're breathing that stuff in. I mean, we should consider restricting the use of chimeneas or just outlawing them in the city charter, or in city ordinances, rather, That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Flynn. Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Okay, hearing no other public comment, we'll close public comment. We'll move on to item number 4. Approve minutes from the August 18, 2015 regular meeting. Can I have a motion to do so? Motion by Karen, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Item number 5, approve minutes from the August 31st, 2015 Ordinance Committee meeting. I have a motion to do so. Motion by Karen, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda, item number 6, approve minutes from the September 8, 2015 Ordinance Committee meeting. Can I have a motion to do so? Motion by Nicole, second by Karen. Is there any discussion? Just under discussion, the three of us met and went through that stack of ordinances that we had. You can see the specific notes. I did reach out to Jim Baldwin. He's going to try to make the meeting that we had. We may have to adjust the time just a little bit for Jim. But we expect to come back to this board with the start of some recommendations for our first meeting in October, and we'll continue on throughout the process. So if there's no other comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is the first Selectmen's report. Just a couple quick things. Road work is continuing throughout the town. In your packets, or actually Roy, I believe, just handed them out, you'll find an update from Jim Galligan for your review. I'll read the report into the record so people are aware of that. For Contract 3, listed below are the roads in Contract 3 where drainage, piping, and paving is complete. That's Bungay Terrace, Farrell Street, Martha Street, Glenbrook Drive, Johnson Avenue, Clifton Street, Prospect Street, Robin Road, Chickadee Lane, and Swan Avenue. George Street is being reclaimed this week. Paving of George and final course of pavement on Martha and Farrell will be also completed this week. Curbs and aprons will be done the following week. With Contract 5, Ann, Argyle, Grand Street, Birchwood, Henry, Stoddard, and Third. Paving has all been completed. Curbing and aprons on these roads will also be completed this week. Contract 1, which is the big one, that is the hot in place contract. The equipment was mobilized on Thursday, September 3rd, 2015. Reclaiming started on Tuesday, September 8th. Attached is a listing of the hot in place roads in working order. These roads will take 3 weeks to complete. Changing out new catch basin tops for old tops will follow the hot in place reclamation. Final paving by O&G is scheduled for early October 2015. Those roads are Botsford and Bungay to Brookfield, Cantfield from Botsford to Mountain, Davis Road from Route 337 up to Gary Park Drive, that's been completed. Partial work on Birchwood has been completed. Partial work on Bunting has been completed. Once they are finished the full part of Birchwood and Bunting, they're going to move to Garden, Meadow, and Pershing. And then once that's completed, they will do Oakwood, Woodcrest, Wycliffe, Omar, and Colony. Contract 2, drainage pipe installation is complete in the New Street, Hill Street area. Reclaiming of these streets will begin the week of September 21st. No parking will be permitted in this area during construction. Once that is done, the contract will move on to Hines Street and Elm Street. The drainage and paving on Church Street will start after October 5th. We are pushing that out because of the 5K road race. We wanted to make sure that Church Street is intact with expected 3,000 runners. We wanted to make sure that that street was intact so there's no issues. And then contract 4, which also has work on Birchwood, Falbo, Colony, and Pershing. Those have been reassigned to other contracts due to proximity, are included in the schedule as I mentioned before. County Street drainage and the Patton Ave extension drainage will be completed separately by the end of the fall. So that is the report from Jim. Again, if any of you have any questions, you can let me know, Rory know, or you can reach out to Jim directly, whichever is easiest for you. Also, I've been appointed to the following CCM policy committees: the Committee on Labor Relations, the Committee on Taxes and Finance, and again, I'll serve as the Vice Chair of the Committee on Sustainability. These committees are used to help create and shape the CCM legislative agenda for the upcoming session. Work will start next week and will continue right on through the start of session and then into the early part of session. Yesterday, I accepted the retirement request for Public Works Director Dennis Rosem. His retirement will become effective on October 30th, 2015. I'd like to personally thank Dennis for his many years of dedicated service to the town of Seymour. Finally, work on the draft format of the new townwide operations department is almost completed. With Dennis's announcement, we had to re-examine a few areas to see if there's any changes that were needed, and I expect to make the presentation to the board at our next meeting on October 6th. So with that, that closes the first Selectmen's report. We'll move on to item number 8, discussion, take possible action regarding reimbursement for Emily Baldwin. In your packets, you should have a letter to myself from Scott Andrews, Executive Director of Seymour Ambulance. Dear First Selectman Miller, while compiling the list for tax abatement recipients for the Volunteers of Seymour Ambulance Association in 2015, I did not include Emily Baldwin. Emily had not identified for me that she owned any real property for the Glam list of October 1st, 2014. She has since then indicated this to me. As such, I'm requesting that you consider providing the tax abatement afforded to other eligible volunteers of the Seymour Ambulance Association. Emily meets all the requirements set forth under Town of Seymour ordinances and the Seymour Ambulance Association point system to receive up to a $1,000 abatement. Please accept my apology for this oversight and consider her name for inclusion on the 2015 tax abatement list. Thank you for time and consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Scott Andrews. So at this point, I'll consider, or entertain a motion, I should say, to include Emily Baldwin as a part of the 2015 tax abatement list for the Seymour Ambulance Association.
So moved.
Motion by Karen, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is item number 9, which is discussion, take possible action regarding tax incentive application for 770B Derby Avenue. You should have in your packets the tax incentive program application. At this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our Economic Development Director, Fred Masori, to go through the packet with us.
Good evening. Fred Masori, Economic Development Director. In front of you is an application by J.D. Greenwood, LLC. They own 770 B Derby Avenue. The rear of the property recently had a new construction of a warehouse building, 6,050 square feet. The construction completed over the summer.
Wait, Fred, hold on one second. Do people not have these in their packets?
No, I don't have it.
Here, Rory, just make a quick copy. Keep going, Fred.
Is that what this? No.
Yeah, Rory's gonna make copies. It was a separate document. Go ahead, Fred.
Should I wait till the packet?
No, go ahead. It's okay.
So it was a new construction of a 6,050 square foot warehouse building that they currently rented out to a company, a national company that's been in business for over 100 years.
I'm sorry, where is it?
770 B Derby Avenue.
Right behind Vermeer, Clean Harbors.
Clean Harbors
Oh,
in the rear of. So they constructed a new building in the back. And they are looking to, they put an application for the tax incentive package. The construction costed for the entire site costs and the building over $500,000. I toured the property about a month ago just to see the completed work. The craftsmanship came out wonderful. All the utilities were put underground, new paving for the rear of the property. It was a pre-engineered or prefabricated building with many amenities to it to make it look much more attractive than your standard warehouse building with stone facade, earth tone colors. So I think it's a compliment to that area. It fits nicely into the character of the rest of the roadway there. Again, with the construction costs coming over $500,000, I went through the invoices that were submitted. Some of them did not apply towards getting reimbursement to the tax incentive application that we have set forth, and the total was brought to $481,365 as per our application, and the incentive package. It does qualify for a 50% abatement of taxes for 3 years, so that would be my recommendation for that. Also, we'll be refunding the town permits that were applied for as part of the application.
Fred, if you could, how many jobs are they estimating we'll add?
You know, they are storing material there, so there'll be transient workers that come in throughout the work schedule. I don't have the exact number, but I believe it's somewhere in a handful, 3 to 5. But the good thing about this and the application, the owner was so excited. First off, the location was selected, like I said, by this national company. I could tell you the name of it. It's, I'll spell it, Joerns. It's Joerns. They do medical furniture. Beds is what they specialize in. Again, they've been around for over 100 years out of Minnesota. And because they took the location so quickly, this building was built on spec. The location was a desirable one, being off the highway. And because the tenant signed a long-term lease, the owners are now looking to do a phase 2 to this building. So they did all the infrastructure to the first phase of the building, which was constructed, which is in front of you now. But there is a thought to do another building because it leased so quickly, and they had a very good experience with dealing with all the different departments of getting approvals and inspections. So credit to the team that we have here, because it was such a pleasant experience. They want to continue to expand. So, and also they are, appreciative of any type of incentive that we would offer. So I think it's a win-win for us.
Fred, what brought them here?
The tenant?
Yep.
Well, again, I think it was more the location. They had brokers, real estate brokers, that identified the location as fitting what their need was. But I think it was more the access. The building, like I said, is a wonderful state-of-the-art warehouse building. It has high ceilings, 24-foot ceilings. So, high efficiency lighting. new construction is very desirable. And we have a very good location for destination to get people to and from. Just like why Clean Harbor is located here. So again, it was just a win-win for us, so. And again, just the thought of having more new construction happening on that roadway is, I think, a positive for us.
Absolutely. Okay, any other questions or comments? For Fred? Rich, any comments from you? Okay, so if, so then Fred's recommendation is a 50% abatement for 3 years. So at this point, then, the motion would be just that from the selectmen, if that's what they want to move forward with?
Yes, the board to entertain a motion to authorize the town of Seymour to enter into a tax incentive agreement providing for a 50% abatement of taxes over a 3-year period to JD Greenway LLC for property located at 770B Derby Avenue, Seymour.
Would anyone like to make that motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Anne Marie. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Fred. Item number 10 is discussion with Economic Development Director. We had asked that Fred come and give us a quick update on what is going on, and then that's going to kind of move right into item number 11 with it, which is discussion, take possible action regarding Phase 1 of the Greenway Trust. I don't know how you and Mike want to work that, but why don't you at least start with your update, and then we'll just move right into that.
Yes, I apologize. I don't have a full report, and maybe you're happy because we were kind of tight on time. But at the end of September, my report for the quarter will come up, and we can go over that after, in October, if you'd like. But just some, things that are going on. Tonight, you're going to hear a presentation regarding the preliminary design for the Phase 1 of the Greenway Trail, which we're excited about. We went under contract with Mylone and Broom back in March 15th to start this phase of the project. As I mentioned, I believe in 2014, I don't know the exact meeting date, but we were successful in getting a grant by the state to do the construction of Phase 1 with a 20% contribution by the town. Again, I'll let Mike discuss the details of the project, but we've committed to doing our part of it, which is the design of it, through various meetings with DOT. And again, we submitted the first phase of that to the state for review. And again, Mike will explain that to you. I also gave in your packets tonight, I sit on the Naugatuck River Greenway Trail Committee, which has recently hired UConn to do an economic impact of Greenway and multi-use trails to a community where they're located. So it does give you, so if you have this, I think it'd be good to see kind of what this investment that the town's looking at, not only adding a quality of life to our downtown and complementing very nicely the project that just completed at the Fish Bypass channel, but also the economic generator that this project could also do. So I'm hoping that once we're done with Phase 1 and the success of that, we're going to continue with Phase 2 along River Street and finalizing it with a pedestrian bridge over the dam, connecting back to the Greenway Trail. So that's my report on that. We recently completed a joint venture with Basement Systems on, we've had a lot of issues, as you know, with the signs, Welcome To signs, Adopt a Spot signs, and also industrial park signs. I won't rehash what the issues were in the past, just the successes. We've completed the Adopt a Spot signs, which I'm really excited to say. I think they look great of identifying areas in town, and we have sponsors that have committed to it, and I made them aware that if they do not maintain the areas, we'll move them out and get a new sponsor in. So I'm just going to let you know we're going to stay on top of that. Also, the Welcome To signs have been completed. We are currently working with Henny Penny, which recently opened at 2-4 New Haven Avenue. And that project will be putting in their own sign at their cost. So the off-ramp coming from southbound exit 22 that stops in front of the store will see a Welcome to Seymour sign located on their property with their sponsoring it. And again, they will be taking the cost for that. So that's a good private-public partnership, if you will. And they were so grateful in working with us and getting their approvals and dealing with the state DOT realignment of the light there. So they were more than happy to offer putting in a new sign for us. So we're in the process. I'm meeting with them tomorrow to go over the exact location and giving them an application for the sign. And so you should hopefully see that within the next 6 weeks, I would expect. And then on the Silver Mine Industrial Park, which really the grant that we received originally was for back in the Paul Roy days, which I like to thank Paul for facilitating that. And then there was kind of a snag with moving forward with implementing the grant. We went through and we were able to reallocate some of the funds for other signs, but the industrial park signs we had some issues with. But most recently, we partnered with Basement Systems to resurrect the old signs that were originally done when the Hubble Park was first constructed. The industrial park was named Hubble. And they were more of a map, sign that then identified the parcels and who was there. It was just outdated, but I thought the sign itself was well made and easy to navigate if you came to the park not knowing where to go. It was very legible. So we showed a sample of that to the owner of Basement Systems, and I can tell you that Larry Janeski took the ball and ran with it and said that he would have his designers and sign companies look at it, and the signs were up in weeks. So I was very grateful for that, and we're doing a contribution towards the sign, so he is putting a larger portion of what the cost of the 5 signs are. But we did have a balance left in our grant that we're putting towards the completion of that project. So I'm happy to say that that's finished. And again, it was a good partnership with a business that's expanding in town. And again, happy with the way that we've been working with them in their expansion of their campus. So. And that's basically my report.
Any questions for Fred? And again, as Fred said, we'll get the quarterly report we should have for our October, second meeting in October. We'll have the full executive summary. Fred's report will be a part of that, which will be presented to the 10-year Strategic Planning Commission as well. So, any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, if not, then you want to, are you
Yeah, I'm
going to
going to
present
pass.
as Mike in a prayer?
Yeah, I'm going to introduce Mike Joyce is with Mylona McBroom. He's the head engineer on this project for the Seymour Greenway Trail. We wanted to give you, the Board of Selectmen, an update on where it stood, the project. We're very excited about the work that's been done up to this point. Just to give you a little quick history on it, we originally allocated some monies through the Economic Development Commission to do a downtown strategy plan, which was completed a couple of years ago. And in that plan, we made some recommendations through the consultant that was hired. And we wanted to investigate better access and use of the water that ran down our downtown and split River Street and Wakely. So once we initiated that project, I sought monies through a private and public partnership with the Connecticut Main Street program to see if they would give us some funding to do planning phase document. And we were fortunate enough to receive a $10,000 grant to do a Greenway Trail conceptual, if you will. Mylona McBroom was hired because of their work at the Fish Bypass Channel. I figured they had a lot of the data to keep our cost as low as possible since we only had $10,000. We leveraged our initial investment of $10,000 to get $10,000, and we were able to put together a Greenway Trail conceptual design for both sides of the river that we then applied for an award with the state of Connecticut. We were successful last summer in receiving a reinvestment award into our downtown, and since that time we were able to secure, again, construction monies for phase 1. And now we're at the point where Mike can tell you where we are with the preliminary design. So Mike Joyce.
Good evening, Mike. Mike Joyce with Mylona McBroom. Thank you, Fred. Appreciate it. Before I get started, is this representation of the board good for everyone to see? Would you like the public to see more? or should I focus my attention just purely to the board at this time?
Oh, focus to the board for now, and then we can leave it out for residents to
Questions?
see
Okay.
if they want to see it.
Again, thank you again for having me here tonight. I appreciate it. I've been involved with the design of this project. Other people in our office have been involved for a little more further years than I have, based upon some of the conceptual assessments you've done. I believe they've made some presentations to the town before based upon some of those conceptual feasibility studies. When I got involved with Fred on this project, we talked about how we make this connection between what's hopefully become a successful Ting Dam project for the town and the urban renewal area, and the connection to Route 67, understanding there's neighborhoods and businesses up to the west that have a difficult connection to get into downtown. The walkway systems that are there now are narrow sidewalks. You walk underneath highways, across medians, and the aesthetic value of that is detached from one of your best resources, which is the river. As Fred mentioned, he was able to secure funding through the different transportation enhancement programs that are out there today. That was evolved from the ICE-T programs into the MAP 21 and the other transportation enhancement programs that are out there today. For orientation purposes, the graphic to my right has north orientated to the right. To the right of the board is Route 67 and Bank Street. Obviously in blue is the Naugatuck River. On the top of the graphic is River Street across the way. You see Route 8 in the center of the project graphic, and then you also have what's been highlighted just for clarity. Obviously, we know trails are not painted white, but we've illuminated it and shown some lighting, conceptual lighting on it too, because that is an element of the project that we'd like to implement. Just for, if I can go remote for a moment here. I know. I don't have to explain the Ting Dam project area to you. I think you're all very familiar with it, but this is our first connection point. You have an existing gate that's there today that provides access to the fjord for DEEP, for their activities associated with the bypass area and the channel. We're looking to modify that slightly to have a more formal trail entrance or trailhead gateway entrance to that area. Still provide access, obviously, for DEEP and then DPW access that comes in and out of the area, but make it more of an attractive, inviting trail entrance from there, and then pick up on the themes that have been established in the Ting Dam Park, one of which would be the lighting style that's there today, to make that consistent as you work through this area. The intent here is to not make this look like two separate projects, but one an evolved area of passive and active recreation. Just for clarity purposes, we've kind of screened the section of the trail that goes underneath Route 8. What we've done through our earlier coordination with the Economic Development and Fire Department, Emergency Services, is to identify where do we want this? Do we want it up against the abutment? Or do we want to have it pull away from the abutment? The idea and the collective decision was to pull away from the abutment. Let's not keep this against that wall and have such an urban feel to it. Let's start this natural feel of a winding trail through this area as soon as we can without getting into more of a sidewalk feeling. As we work our way through this area, the existing riprap that you see underneath the highway in the area will be modified a little bit to accommodate the alignment of the trail. As we work our way around the corner of the abutment into what we'll call the daylight of the trail out along the river, we've had the opportunity to walk the trail route a few times with for selectmen and with staff, and there's an existing flat benched area that you can follow up through the area, which is primarily the alignment of where the trail will go in the future. It's a little narrower than what we need. As you walk your way up along the river, you have your river vistas to the left, and as you walk this way up to the right is the embankment that supports Route 8's on-ramp to the Route 8 South interstate. As we work our way along here, there are a couple areas along the trail where, because of the grades that drop off on either side, we need to support the trail. This area here requires a short retaining wall along this side. One of the challenges we have in this particular area is that as the trail works its way through this area, we didn't want to cut into the embankment that supports the highway. When you start getting into slopes and retaining walls that support the highway, it significantly increases the design requirements that go along with supporting the highway. We didn't want to get into that. We want to be separate and have this trail be independent as much as possible from the DOT systems that were out there. As we work our way up along, again, this flat benched area, we climb our way up along the way, providing some locations for some benches and sitting areas for people to enjoy the vistas in this area. Again, the trail for this area has been designed so that we have very minimal regulatory permits. That saves time, that saves money in the area. That doesn't mean there's not future opportunities to do improvements down in those wetland or floodplain areas, but we wanted to make sure that this project was not on a slower track permitting-wise so that we can get it in the ground sooner. As we work our way up to Route 67 and Bank Street, we have to define a stopping point for the bike and pedestrian activity, the shared use path as it's called. It's a 12-foot wide path, has a slightly narrower section near the wall here, and then comes back to 12 feet quickly here. We'll have a point where we stop. There'll be a landscape feature that's yet to be determined in this area. And from there, we get into a sidewalk connection. Those who are familiar with Bank Street know that the sidewalk there is relatively narrow. It's not a 8-foot wide shared use path. So we have to make a kind of a mental transition for the users that you're coming out of a shared use condition, get off your bike, and then begin to walk again in those areas, or get back into the public transportation system here. So there's a little bit of a unique feature to this. As you know today, the parapet, or the wall that supports the sidewalk on the right-hand side, comes to an abrupt end right at the Route 8 on-ramp. And right from there, there's guide rail that picks up from there. We have to then make a break in that to have allow the pedestrians to come through that area, but at the same time not create an attractive opening for a vehicle, also not create a safety issue that doesn't protect vehicles from where they need to be protected away from the pedestrians in that area. In doing that, we have a couple systems in place. One is a very specifically designed guide rail system that will end in this area, and then another area of the existing wall, which stops at an abrupt end today, will be extended and curved around to follow the walk back toward the trail. That way there's no gap that would be an attractive entry point for a vehicle in that area. But at the same time, an attractive walking entrance to the area. Where the design is going to intend to match the existing relief and look of that parapet that's out there today. We've been talking to the town a little bit about maybe doing some subtle relief work in those panels to identify Seymour Greenway Trail, something along those lines, something that's not too graphic that would draw someone's eye attention away from a vehicle perspective, but at the same time establish this as a trailhead for not only the entrance to the trail, but also a link down to the Ting Dam. As you work through this area today, as you walk along, you can see in the white area here, this is where the existing crosswalk that's used at different times of day that gets underneath the highway. What we identified during our design is that currently, because of the parapet, actually any pedestrians in that walk are somewhat screened by the parapet and are not seen by vehicles coming this way. We're pulling that pedestrian ramp up away from the side, from the ramp, and more towards 67 a little bit, still underneath the overpass. What it does is it provides a much better visibility distance for any pedestrians who might be walking in that area. So it's not a requirement, but was identified as a due diligence safety mechanism that we wanted to include. And all it really takes is some striping and a new sidewalk ramp, so we felt like this was the time to do it while the funding was available. What's not reflected here, and is on the drawings, is also there's going to be a landscaping treatment along this area. Something that's going to be easy to maintain. We're not looking to provide produce a maintenance-intensive landscape feature out here. This is an area that's going to have some natural revegetation that will occur over time, but at the same time provide some element of landscaping in the area so that you know that this just isn't in a walkway in the woods. What we've done, the way this project is structured as far as submissions and design process, is that we submitted this summer a design to VHB, who is the consultant liaison for the Department of Transportation. They are reviewing the project on behalf of DOT. Fred mentioned that this design submission was called a PD submission, or a preliminary design submission. The information that we've submitted on the plans is a much further advanced design. We've taken the design at this stage in discussions with VHB to help advance and hopefully skip the next stage of design submission. We typically have a semifinal after this and then a final design. We've been in communication with them that given the information we provided on the preliminary design plans, we're looking to go right into our final design drawings because we don't have regulatory permits, we don't have, except for some local regulatory involvement, but we're outside of wetlands, we're outside of 100-year floodplain. We've already done some environmental screening with the Department of Transportation with respect to any cultural or historical or endangered species representation. The work we did on the Ting Dam project identified where those areas of concern are, and those are isolated to the Ting Dam area itself, both just upstream and also downstream. So we have basically a clean slate, what's called a categorical exclusion, to move forward with this project. We don't have any specific easements or rights-of-way acquisitions that have to be done because we're working with either town property or within the state of Connecticut DOT right-of-way. We've worked with them on securing the right permissions to build the trail within their right-of-way without any specific provisions that would delay that project. Currently, what we're looking at as a construction cost, and we have a couple of alternates in the bid depending on where the funding falls into play, is a roughly a $500,000 construction item cost. On top of that, there's a requirement to provide contingencies in that bid and also inspection monies in that bid. So there's a whole formula that's created that basically sets it up for the whole construction phase. Construction costs for the contractor, oversight by some DOT staff, the district staff, and inspection staff and town staff that are necessary for that. So that with that number, that produces a number around $750,000 for the entire construction phase of the project to build. That can range a little bit though, because if we get into lighting, which we hope to and do, and we have it in the design, those numbers can go up slightly from between $750,000 to $900,000 depending on where the bids come in and how much money of the contingencies. Again, contingencies are based upon things that may be unforeseen. I'll be happy to answer any questions along the way or at the end, whatever you prefer.
$500,000 the most that it's gonna cost?
No, the $500,000 is the construction item cost, which is, we produce the design drawings.
Now, I'm sorry, you're saying the construction item cost?
That's the physical work that's being done by the contractor in the field. So the contractor's work in the field is, I have to build X and Y. There's also a component of construction that says someone has to make sure that X and Y are done correctly.
Okay, but what you're saying is, it could be more than $500,000?
Yes, there's certain elements of the project that could be implemented in the project, whether it's certain levels of lighting, certain levels of amenities that go on the trail that could increase those costs.
Well, I'm not talking about, lighting or, I'm talking about the construction.
That is, and then those are construction items in the project themselves. So
So it could cost this town more than $500,000 for this project.
the project is funded under a transportation enhancement program where there's,
Well, I understand that.
but there's a formula for how much the federal government will pay and how much the town of Seymour will pay.
Right.
And I believe under this project, it's an 80-20 representation.
Correct.
80% of the project costs are paid by the federal government under the program, and 20% of the costs are paid by the town of Seymour.
Right, we used $750 when we created the model for it.
I'm sorry, Kurt, what?
We used $750,000 when we used the model, when we created the model for it,
Okay,
when the board created.
All right.
So
All
Mike
right.
is right within where we had thought he would be.
okay, I just want to know what the what can we expect?
Well, I think he's saying
Coming
that,
up,
depending on how we go up to $900,000.
The,
900?
not for the town.
Not for the town.
For the
but
whole
cost
entire
of the
project.
Oh,
The whole
okay.
entire project. So if the construction costs and all the contingencies are used and all the other items are used, and it comes out to $900,000, the town would be required to pay 20% of that.
What percent?
20,
I'm sorry.
20% of that, yeah.
All right.
Again, and that's what the town has to commit to when they receive the funding, that those percentages, they understand that those could come up. Obviously, we're going to do our due diligence so you don't have any contingencies, hopefully, under the project. That's our intent, it's our design, but those do happen. That's why they're there. That's why they're in the funding formula for that to happen. So we don't like to come in here and tell you that you're going to get $300,000 and it comes back and it's $700,000. We want to be clear so that when you get into the construction phase, it's programmed. There's no additional meetings that need to be held for additional funding, which would delay the project completion and so forth.
Okay, I got it.
And I was going there, but I understand your question completely. So just to kind of wrap up briefly, the trail length is it's about 1,000 feet, 900 feet of linear trail connecting between the park at Ting Dam. And again, I believe, is it Tingu Dam, is it proper pronounced, Tingu? Okay.
Continue, yeah.
The Tingu Dam, from the Tingu Dam up to Bank Street. And this is also being looked at in conjunction with other projects that are being studied in the corridor, Route 67 spot improvements that are part of this as well. So this, while isolated area, it's definitely not a project that's being looked at in a vacuum by any means. As Fred had mentioned, this is a part of a bigger project, a bigger scheme, a bigger feasibility study that was done to identify exactly how best to use all your water resources that are down in this area, including possible future connections to the park on the other side of the river. I have a lot more information design-wise here, but it's up to the board and the residents. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding any of the details in the project at this time.
Any board members have any questions? I think you said I'm sad. Oh, sorry.
With regard to time,
Sorry.
time and scheduling and whatnot, maybe this is a better question for Kurt, but what are we looking at with regard to putting a shovel on the ground, moving forward with this?
Late spring, early summer, is that still not the?
Okay, so this is scheduled for a 2016 construction season. It won't take the full construction season to build for it, but, you know, depending on when contracts are signed and materials are mobilized and submittals and all the documentation that comes through, 2016 will be the construction season for this.
But you would expect early spring to go out to bid?
Yeah, I mean, usually in April 1st is when we do the start of construction. If there's some reason they can get started sooner than that, that's fine. We'll be fine. But that's usually what we schedule.
Are there any outstanding issues that would require additional time to be foreseen at this point?
At this time, we don't. We did a very detailed outreach to DOT early on in this project before we even got started with design. As part of the scope preparation we did with the town, we had to identify, did we have an issue here at this connection point? And we met with DOT, Department of Transportation, about their guide rail safety measure requirements, et cetera. And so we've got an endorsement on that. Well, not a final technical review. We got an endorsement that we had a viable project. So that was one hurdle. One of the other questions we had is that we're working in what's called the DOT non-access line. You know, it's the DOT's right-of-way for Route 8. Do we need special permissions for that? They indicated because it's not physically connected and not providing access right to the highway, we don't need to go into that as well. This would be very similar to the Derby Trail, where there's a pedestrian crossing over Route 8 on-ramp, is that required a special permit and a special permission, which did take some time. We've identified we don't need that type of permission in this case. Yes, sir.
I'm glad you mentioned the Derby Trail. In terms of trying to get a visual in my head of what it will look like, is it going to be cement with railings, or like what is just a rough idea of what that will look like?
If you've been along this section of Derby Trail, this is not going to look like the levee section. There's elements in the Derby Trail that will be similar to it, where there is round rail wood fence on the area where slopes drop off. Those 3-rail typical bike trail type railing that's on the left-hand side of a slope that goes down the hill. That'll be there for rider safety in those areas. The elements of the Derby Trail where it falls down into the flats and gets into the woodland more likely what this is going to feel like in this area. More of a natural escape from the urban area than where we did the design for Derby Trail. We were forced to kind of use the levee in those areas to provide those links and those connections. Sure. But at the same time, there's certain areas where the section where you go from the Housatonic Railroad back up under before you get to the railroad again, where it winds along the section between the Atwater Bridge and the railroad bridge. That's kind of the section, that's the feel that this will likely have.
Thank you.
I'm going to assume that we did to make sure that there's no endangered species, box turtles or any aquatic life that will be endangered from this, correct?
Correct. We have no in-water activity. We have no wetland activity in this area. We did do what's called a natural diversity database research with DOT's Environmental Planning Office. We had background information on actual investigations that were done as part of the Tingyu Dam project, which identified what in this area was a sensitive area. There's some areas that were down below the dam, the toe of the dam, and there's some eagle nestings that are in the area too, but that's not an area that it's been identified in here.
Any other questions? We do have, and Rory, correct me if I'm wrong on the date, in 2 weeks, a resident session on this, is that? Okay. So in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, it'll be sometime in the month of October.
Yeah, we're going to have a session for the residents. Mike will come and do, I don't want to put words in Mike's mouth, but Mike will come and do a full presentation for the residents, let them ask questions, be able to really dig into this as well so they feel comfortable. Okay, excellent.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it. Okay. Okay, so at this point, I'll close item number 11. At this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to the Deputy First Selectman, and I'm going to excuse myself from the room.
See ya.
Okay, I have a point of order. Well, ladies, I have a point of order. Item number 12 says discussion and take possible action regarding FS salary. And somebody said to me, are you trying to give Fred Stanek a raise? Okay? This is a violation of FOI. I called FOI. I called Hartford.
I respectfully disagree with Hartford or anyone on this. It says.
I called Mike Hennick.
I'm happy to talk to Mike Hennick
Tom,
about
it's
this.
Tom Henning.
But did you tell Mike Hennick there's a full resolution? That there's a full.
What are you
resolution?
talking about, a full resolution?
Do you see the resolution in your packet?
No, oh, I did.
Well, that-
But on the agenda, if somebody in Seymour comes down to get a copy of the agenda, FS, I have a friend who said to me, Fred Stanek's getting a raise?
Right. We refer to FS as for selectmen in town business, so.
But
So you're saying this isn't transparent and you would like.
that's exactly right. That's exactly what I'm saying. I have a problem with the fact that the average person, and I mean, I understand we have a problem with people voting in Seymour. I don't think your average person in Seymour knows what FS means. And I think it's a point of order.
Well, I
Waiting for Rich.
I mean, it seems to me, we need to amend the agenda.
So let's amend the agenda, because FS doesn't mean first selectman to most people who live in Seymour.
Okay?
Can you, thank you.
Yeah,
So, so Karen, let me get this straight. You had one person approach you with
It was
some
more than
confusion.
one person.
But you knew what this was because you.
Well, I knew what it was. I'm on the Board of Selectmen, for God's sakes. But I mean, the point is, your average, we only get 3,000 people voting even in a presidential year.
So, I don't think you amend,
Just make a motion to amend
To amend
FS to first
agenda,
selectman.
you know, to spell out the words first select.
I don't understand, and, I mean, Kurt's not here.
I'd like to make the motion to amend FS to say first selectman in item number 12.
Okay, motion by Al, second.
Second.
Second by Len. All those in favor?
Aye.
Discuss,
I'm
sorry.
abstaining. I don't understand why it was put this way, not only once, but twice. Because our last agenda that we.
Okay, but we're
what the hell
amending.
do you
this-
call it?
We're amending it.
No, I
Okay,
understand
so
that.
everybody understands. So
But the last
Al
agenda.
made the motion, Len seconded it. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 4-0-1. Note the abstention by Karen.
And now, am I gonna get attacked again for abstaining?
Let's just get
Okay,
back to
but
the.
item number 12, discussion and take possible action regarding first selectman salary. We're going to have Bill Zwicky come up and give us a little discussion on it. Thank you, Bill.
Bill Sawicki, Lantern Drive, Chair of the Board of Finance. About 4 months ago, we spoke to the Board of Selectmen about there's a big push on for modernization, professionalism, improvement, all of those characteristics. One of the areas that we discussed and that I talked to Kurt about was the salary for the first selectman's office. It's our understanding that the salary, which is now 72.5, was last changed, I believe, anywhere from 12 to 15 years ago. And prior to that, it was another 10 years or so before that number had moved. So selectmen set up a committee to look at the first selectman's salary. It was myself, Al Bruno, Paul Roy, and Beverly Kennedy from my board. And we looked at different data from CCM, comparables on population of towns between 10 and 19,999, which is what Seymour is. We've got about 16.5, I think. And we looked at their budgets, their population, and Seymour was near the bottom of the pack. Our thrust on this was not to hand out money in raises, but to look down the road in the future in terms of trying to attract good candidates, professional candidates, that it's up to the parties who they pick to run, obviously, or any independent that wants to get on the ballot. But we looked at it in the hopes of making it attractive enough for someone who's a professional, and whether it be have management skills, finance skills, administration, whatever combination, that would think, gee, that might not be bad to get someone involved in the town. So we looked at we had a couple of meetings. We looked at the demographics and the details from CCM, and what we came up with was a salary of $85,000, which would be the initial starting salary for, as of this coming election, whoever wins, of the first selectman. And every time, if that person stayed on and got reelected in 2 years and reelected in 2 years, there would be a raise involved of $2,500, which is about 1.5% a year, give or take. Because I know that the town contracts are usually at the famous 2.99 percentage points of raises. So we thought that 1.5% a year is not egregious by any stretch. If someone loses an election, retires, quits, whatever, then obviously a new person coming in would be at $85,000. They'd start at the beginner's salary. We also had the idea that to keep pace with inflation, to keep pace with the general economy, it shouldn't be a stagnant number. And we came up with an idea that every 5 years, both the starting salary and the $2,500 get looked at. Is it reasonable? Is it comparable to what's going on in the economy, or whatever? So that's what we presented to the first selectman and to the board. And at that stage, it was turned over to council for a resolution. It's up to however the process goes, whether you approve it, it goes to voters, whatever. But we're looking at it from the point of being apolitical, that we're looking down the road to see Seymour's not going to be a sleepy little town anymore, and to attract people, to get them into the right positions. And again, this is incumbent upon however these candidates get picked and whatever the voters want to do. We thought that that would be a good way to make a position attractive. That's pretty much where we're coming from.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah,
for
I do.
Bill?
Yeah.
And you're talking about
Karen?
like $5,000 over how many years? Not $5,000 right up front?
No, what we're saying is, and I believe it's in the resolutions that you have or how it was printed, the starting salary goes to $85,000,
Okay.
and then every time that particular person gets reelected, it's $2,500, a raise. If that person leaves office and 4 years later or 6 years later or however long decides and gets elected again, he starts back at 85. He doesn't pick up where he left off.
Okay.
Or she?
Or she. He or,
Yeah.
apologies for the gender miss, he or she.
Good job.
Bill, I have a question.
Yeah.
You took a look at some of the averages and whatnot. Is 85 Is that a median? Is that just a straight up
We,
average?
we,
What is that?
we looked at, and it's not a hard and fast calculation, if that's what you're asking. I think there were 26 towns in the listing that fall into our population numbers. And we looked at how much their budgets were, exclusive of the Board of Education, because although the first selectman administers the town, that budget for all of those towns is out of the control of the first selectman or my Board of Finance. But we looked at it and we tried to develop what we thought was fair. I mean, there are numbers, most towns do have elected officials, whether they're called mayors, first selectmen, or some other title, and some do have town managers. The town manager salaries, and not counting benefits or anything, were probably in the area of anywhere from 120 up to, I think, close to 180. And those are people, obviously, Board of Selectmen would hire on a contract basis that would be renewable based on performance. There were some selectmen that were in the 90,000 to low hundreds. There were a few in very small towns that were down around in the $50,000 to $60,000 range. So we try to come up with something that was not egregious in terms of a number, but that made sense. I mean, we didn't pick $100,000 to start with, because that was too high, obviously, in our minds. But that's the best of what we came up with. And I think if you drop that 85 into the demographics we saw, the listing, it's probably in not the top 50%. I would think it would probably be a little bit lower. Not much, but a little bit out of the 50% range.
We guesstimated that. Bill.
Yeah.
That'd be what-
And Bill, where are we now?
Selectman salary is 72.5.
No, I'm not price, sorry, in the range of it,
You're probably close to the middle of the pack.
with the 72.5. But
No. Now you're
that's what I'm talking about.
No. Now you're in the bottom. I believe you're in the bottom quadrant.
Right, that's my
25%, something like that. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers. I can get them.
No, that's why I just wanted to.
But if the town has taken a lot of great strides in the last few years to move up and plan and develop these long-range goals and things like that, and there's going to come a point in time when nobody in this room is going to be around, and you hope that whoever is going to. Well, I didn't mean to deliver any bad news, honest. But there's going to come a time when all of us, as volunteers, leave for whatever reason. And you can only hope that the people that come in behind you are smart enough, professional enough, and have enough savvy that they can do this. And, do it well. I mean, anybody can collect a check, and that's not the purpose of this.
Anybody have any questions? Here's the handout from the Naugatuck COG.
Yeah, we don't get a check.
No, we don't.
Gee, neither do we.
We do it for the love
Well,
of our community.
That's it.
I think it's definitely a worthy conversation. I mean,
Yes.
given the fact that the town of Seymour's budget has increased, I mean, you probably know better than anybody, Bill, what it's
Yeah.
increased over the last 15, 20 years. And the first selectman's salary, the chief elected official and the chief executive officer, basically, of the town, has not gone up with that as
Not in the
well.
last 10 to 15 years, and before that it was at least 10.
Sure. And this is always a very touchy subject. I mean,
It
given
is.
it's not an easy thing to do. That's why I appreciate the fact that it was a bipartisan committee. You guys took a look at what was actually going on realistically, similar towns. I'd love to take a look at that document. I didn't get a chance to take a look at it in depth. But I also like the idea of revisiting it every
Yeah.
5 years. 'Cause
Well, you have
that's
to.
something that
That's
needs
what
to
we
be-
thought. That's what we thought is you really have to, because what you pay now for things is not what you paid 5 years ago or 10, and in the future it's not going to be the same. So we thought a 5-year look at it was reasonable. That would have meant if the same person is in there that would be the middle of the second term, I guess. You do it before that election. I think we tagged 2020 as the start of it, which is 5 years from now. And you assess the numbers where you are. It doesn't necessarily have to go up to any degree, but at least it forces 4 people or 3 or 5 or however many the Board of Selectmen appoint as a committee to sit down and spend a little bit of time to see where those numbers fall.
I think that was the idea,
Yeah.
to force the conversation
Yep.
and not let it slide for another 12, 13 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous to,
It's embarrassing.
not only that, it is embarrassing, but it's ridiculous to have a municipal government where nothing moves, least of all the chief executive salary. And this is, from our perspective on the group, it's not a Democrat or Republican issue or an independent issue. This is just day-to-day professional management of a business with a very large budget.
Bill, did you or the committee discuss any other options, as in healthcare?
No, we did not go,
vehicle.
no, we didn't go into the benefit side of it, should he or she get a car, or what kind of health plan, or that wasn't our charge. I mean, we can go back and do that, but we wanted to focus first off on the salary, and we left things like vacation time, sick time, vehicle usage, annuities, whatever you want to call it, that you see that most heads of municipalities and cities and towns have, but we didn't go in that direction.
Any other questions? No? Karen?
What?
No, I'm all set. I'm all set.
I mean, I think this is definitely something we need to, I think this is something we need to take action on.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but, the question is, I guess the number, I suppose it doesn't really matter. The number is it's within the range, whatever it is. The bottom line is, the actual goal of this is to attract the best possible candidates we can from all parties moving forward.
I'd say that's a pretty good assessment, yes.
And that's what,
Yeah.
this is what the recommendation of this bipartisan commission is.
Yes.
I mean, if you think about it, it's probably been the first selectman's salary, if whatever you decide on tonight or whatever, I think it's probably 20 to 25 years, and there's only been one bump.
But are we comparing Seymour to Bloomfield, which is what I was told?
If Bloomfield fell in, and I don't remember all the towns that are listed, but if Bloomfield fell in the 10 to 19,999 bracket, then it's in there. But as I said, there were more municipalities than half that were into the very high 5 figures and 6 figure range. It's not a perfect science by any stretch, but it's something where you put your best effort forward and you try to come up with a number that seems to fit based on what you know and current conditions and things like that. I mean, you're free to change whatever you want to do. We're throwing the number out there for consideration, and if that's a viable number, okay. If not, you have the discretion, obviously, to change it.
Excuse me, but in comparison to what? I mean, Ansonia, Derby, never mind Shelton. How are we factoring up to valley towns?
I think, if I remember right again, and apologies for not bringing all of the stats, but I know you're higher than Ansonia, and you're probably higher than Derby. You're not, obviously, in Shelton, because they're in the 6-figure range.
Never mind Shelton.
No, but you asked about the valley.
Well, I understand that.
But the message is not, from our perspective, in the way we looked at it, our message is, not to make sure we're in line with all the valley. We're looking at Seymour as a growing town that's taken steps forward, that will continue to take steps forward. And really, that's the way we approach it. We considered it. We looked at all of the populations and the numbers for the salaries.
So you compared Seymour to other towns with similar populations, and this is where we...
Yeah, the range that CCM gave us, I believe, was 10,000 to 19,999 for towns.
That was it, Bill.
Yeah, and there were 26, 27 of those towns all over the state.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good sample size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My other question is, since Kurt has been first selectman,
Mhm.
he's hired lots and lots and lots of assistants.
Okay.
And so his job is not as rigorous as it was with previous first selectments. And, first selectmen, I'm sorry. And we're now gonna give him a $20,000 raise?
No,
So-
we're giving any selectman that would be put into office after this election a $20,000 raise. There are two people
I think it's,
running for
I think it's
More
12.5.
like 12.5.
12.5.
Well,
And it won't
okay,
start until after the next
Yeah.
election.
okay.
Right.
And to your point, if that's what you're asking, that doesn't diminish the role of, and probably adds more burden to the overall management of the town. Because I think it's been proven over the years that the first selectman is not and probably never was the jack of all trades to administer all the divisions and all the departments of the town on his own.
Right.
And you hire assistants to do certain jobs.
That's not my point.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My point is that when Kurt became first selectman, he had this job.
Okay.
And now, in the past, I've been on the Board of Selectmen for 4 years, and we've hired, you know, at least four people to assist him in his job. And now we're gonna give him a raise?
All right, I'm going to jump in. Karen, correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying that Kurt has hired 4 people since he's been in
No,
office?
we have hired.
Okay, but to help Kurt with his duties, Kurt, the first selectman had too many duties to begin with, and he wasn't able to focus his attention on what the first selectman needed to do, okay?
Right.
So who did in fact we hire since he's been here? I just want to make this clear what you're saying.
What specifically are you getting at? 'Cause I'm confused too. The
What
lots of
positions
lots.
have we hired in the last 4 years that assist Kurt in his job specifically?
We have hired somebody to be in charge of personnel,
A human resources
human
director,
resource.
which every town should have because that's
I
not the first
understand
selectman's
that.
job.
But my point is, when he got elected as first selectman, we didn't have all these positions.
Right, but we needed them.
Right.
To
Well,
make us
I'm-
an
I'm-
efficiently run town.
Nicole, I'm not saying that we didn't need them. What I'm
Yes, you are.
saying, no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
I think what Karen is trying to say is, and correct me if I'm wrong, the first selectman's job is to run the town. And
Right.
since he's been on, we've hired all these additional managers to help run, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So like a CEO would run a company, a CEO just can't run a company and hire people and be in charge of, the manufacturing line and be in charge of the shipping, receiving line. He needs people to help him run the facility to make sure that it runs smoothly.
I understand that.
I think we're getting off topic here, and just to kind of realign everybody, and the bottom line is, whether you believe the current administration has hired too many people, whether you believe that there are too many department heads is really irrelevant to this conversation. What the conversation really is about is, does the salary, or does the recommendation from this bipartisan committee fit in line with what the responsibilities are of the first selectman, whether or not he has 20 department heads or 50 department heads or 2.
Yes, that's
The
what
bottom
we're-
line is that we have to determine whether or not this recommendation fits within what is best for the town.
And you also
You know,
have to look
debating
at-
what the current administration has done is irrelevant, because in 2 months, we may have a new administration doing something completely different.
Exactly. I think,
And this
Rich,
doesn't
did you have a
apply to the
question?
current administration.
Well, I just wanted to remind everyone, Karen said something about giving Kurt a raise. And this is not giving Kurt.
Right, it doesn't take effect until after the
It
election.
doesn't take effect until December 7th, 2015, because in accordance with state law, you can't give an elected official a raise mid-term. What you're doing is
Correct.
you're
That's
setting down-
unconstitutional.
That's right, you're setting down provision that on a go-forward basis, commencing December 7th, 2015. That's all.
So we feel, the recommendation of the committee was to move our first selectman's salary from 72.5 to 85,000 per year.
No, Nicole, I understand there's not a name on this.
Right,
I understand that.
right, but that's what we're voting on. That's what we're trying to figure out right now. We're discussing it and coming up with the recommendations of the committee to see if this is the direction we want to go in. and that's what we will make a vote on.
Well, I just
What,
like.
can I just say one thing?
Sure. Yes.
Sorry. I just think, you know, I do believe that even going back in the many terms that I've served on this committee, that the selectmen were this first selectman was underpaid. For everything they have to do, because it's 24/7, 365 job. It is. It's not like, well, we can go to work and leave it all at home. But I also think and feel that in this time in the economy, it's tough.
And Anne Marie, can I just say, that's what you sign up for.
I know.
You know, I didn't sign up to be at a Board of Selectmen meeting for an hour and a half.
I know.
I mean, that's what you sign up for when you do this stuff. My husband's been on the Board of Education for 26 years.
I realize that, Karen. I realize that, and I'm saying even previous before Kirk.
The question is, knowing that that is what you sign up for, and believe me, I know, I've done it myself, you certainly have to take that into consideration, but when it comes down to it, this whole proposal is to determine whether or not we are attracting enough people to say,
Right.
yes, this is actually worth signing up for.
Right.
You know, is the salary commensurate with the responsibilities? Well,
Right.
according to a bipartisan board that we've appointed, it's not.
Okay, can I just ask the question again? If we are voting to increase the selectman's salary, please explain this to me.
I'll try.
How much per year is the selectman's salary going to go up?
Well, as I said, you started in December, the winner of the election would start at 85.
85,000. Okay,
If that person is reelected 2 years later, then they would get a $2,500 raise.
okay,
If they get elected in 2 years after that, it's another 2,500.
okay. I
So
got
it's about 1.5% a year raise,
it. Okay,
So that's
give or take.
yeah, that's clear, that's clear.
what's the board's pleasure?
Want a motion?
I just like to just comment quickly. We had a handful of meetings about this, and we had some great debate. We looked at a lot of data. Bill did a great job chairing it and keeping things on track. And I think what we've recommended is very fair and sound, and the four folks on the committee were in favor of this.
Yeah, it was, the numbers that you see were unanimous. It wasn't a 2-2 split or a 3-1 or anything like that.
That's all I just wanted to add.
Want a motion?
Who's on the board?
Who's on the board?
Oh, on the committee?
Who's on the
Yeah, myself and Bev Kennedy from the Board of Finance, and Paul Roy and Al Bruno from your board.
Okay. Someone make a motion to accept,
I move that we accept the recommendation from the, what's the board called? The committee called?
What do we call it?
From the first selectman salary.
Yeah, First Selectman Salary Committee.
Second.
resolution, pass the resolution.
And I'm sorry, and pass the resolution.
Right.
I apologize, yes, the resolution.
Do I need to,
That's probably an
I
important
would
part.
read the resolution.
I move the resolution.
do I need to read it into record? We can just. Resolution regarding compensation for the position of first selectman commencing December 7th, 2015 pursuant to Section 3.7 of the Seymour Town Charter. Whereas the first selectman of the town of Seymour serves as the chief executive officer for the town, and whereas the first selectman has extensive duties and responsibilities as set forth in Chapter 8 of the Seymour Town Charter, and whereas both the Connecticut Constitution and well-established case law require the compensation for the position of first selectman to be set at the beginning of such official's term of office. See Article 11, Section 2 of the Connecticut Constitution of 1965. And whereas the First Selectman Salary Committee has recommended changes to the level of compensation. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. First Selectman salary commencing December 7th, 2015, the base salary for the first selectman shall be set at $85,000. Thereafter, the first selectman's salary shall be increased $2,500 each time the first selectman is reelected. However, any newly elected first selectman commencing his or her first term shall be paid a salary of $85,000 per annum during the first term, and be it further resolved as follows. Salary review. A committee shall be appointed by the Board of Selectmen in 2020 for the purpose of reviewing the base salary of the first selectman and the additional salary increments for those individuals serving more than one term. In such event, the salary shall not be decreased, but it may be increased in accordance with state law upon the recommendation of the committee and the approval of the Board of Selectmen. Thereafter, in successive 5-year periods, a duly appointed committee shall review the total compensation paid to the first selectman and make such adjustments, provided, however, such proposed adjustments shall not reduce the compensation paid to the first selectman. The motion was by, who was by?
Me.
Motion by Len, second by Karen. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Yes, can you get Kurt? Sure. That closes item 12. He left. No, he's probably in his office. Doesn't get it. Has to win the election first. Where you want to get him?
I think he went upstairs to his office.
It's in his office.
He's hiding. My husband is yelling at me.
Where's Westboro? Is Westboro north of Boston? Is it west of Boston?
No, it's east.
It's east of Boston? Yeah, I thought it was Marlboro, but it's actually west. Yeah. But the hotel is yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out what time it is.
I heard him 2 seconds ago.
Who?
Kurt, I heard him coming upstairs. I heard him coming down.
He's upstairs.
No, he was coming down, I heard him.
Why are you yelling at me?
It's not you.
Normally, I would actually just get a hotel and stay the night.
Yet.
No, it's my husband.
Like padding the Let's stay in the hotel so much.
Rory, you want it?
Yeah, come on.
Yes,
It's 8:30.
thank you. Welcome back.
Mr. First Selectman, I'd like to add something to the agenda,
Sure.
please.
Good.
Is that okay, Mayor?
You can make a motion, absolutely.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that we add the request from Culture and Arts for the statue to go to the Broad Street Park rather than the railroad station.
Okay, we don't need a motion to do that, though.
What do you mean?
We don't need a board approval.
What?
to
What
move
are you
it.
talking about?
We don't need board approval to put it at Broad Street Park, it's all set.
No, it's not.
Why?
Because the Broad Street, the Culture and Arts Committee was told that it's Al Yagavain's park, and they can't put the statue there.
I can assure that that never happened.
I can,
Okay, there's a motion on the table, would someone like to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay,
Thank
motion's
you.
been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Do you want to
Abstained.
discuss it now?
Chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Karen, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the Culture and Arts Committee be given permission to put the statue that they have purchased regarding the history of Seymour at any location in the Broad Street Park.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any location?
In the Broad Street Park, which I have to say, let me just amend my motion. I really wish we could name it something other than the Broad Street Park. But I don't think it's right for somebody to say that it's his park.
Okay, so is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Okay, motion is made and second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Some side take care of that.
All
Aye.
All right.
opposed?
Aye.
Abstain. The chair votes aye. The motion passes 5-1-0. And please note Karen's abstention, or excuse me, Karen's negative vote.
No, I didn't vote negative.
Yes, you did.
No, she didn't.
No, I didn't.
Okay, then 6-0.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Thank you.
Item number 13, discussion of possible action regarding EMS staffing proposal. Rich?
Well, let's see. You had the EMS staffing proposal before you, I believe, a couple meetings ago. Is this document, if you recall, and the board at the time authorized us to go forward and try to put together a document, and that was a request in that particular effort, and we did in fact do so.
Yeah, this one. Yep.
Just want to make sure. And so we have a first amendment to the agreement for the provision of basic life support ambulance services in the town of Seymour. The agreement has been reviewed by Scott. It calls for us to use our best efforts to retain folks. It is merely an amendment to the existing 5-year contract that we put in effect in all other respects, and I think it sets forth and captures exactly what that document provides.
Okay. So everyone has a copy of the actual agreement in front of them, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So again, a few changes in item number 2, staffing. Instead of naming a dollar amount, it's the change to be determined at the time of advertising. And then, in item number 4, under reimbursement, is estimated that the rate of reimbursement will be $18.53 per hour. That's been removed, and just the first line, Seymour Ambulance shall reimburse the town for all salary, taxes, and social security costs of the EMT hired by the town. Any issues, concerns, or questions with regards to this? Everyone's comfortable? So, the motion then would be to allow me to enter into,
To authorize the town to enter into the agreement and have the first selectman execute the
okay, can I have a motion as stated by town council?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Len, second by Karen. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. So we'll meet next week and we'll finalize all the, which will get, do you want to have this reviewed by Dominic, or you're all set? Okay, all right, perfect. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Item number 14, discussion, take possible action regarding library grant resolution. At this point, we are not going to be moving forward with this. Folks at the library missed a step in applying for this grant, which Dee found out about and is working to correct it with them. So this will come back before us at a later date, so no action needs to be taken at this point. Item number 15, discussion, take possible action regarding awarding of a bid for the 1979 Dodge Pumper truck. In your package, you should have 2 bids. One is for a price of $3,500, and it's submitted by, do I say the people's name? Scott Tremblay. of 3 Catalina Drive in Ansonia. And then we also have a bid by Mark Ziolo, if I'm pronouncing that right. His bid is $3,159. So, Rich, we have these two bids in front of us. At this point, the board decides which bid it would like to select, and we move forward. Is that correct?
Yes, the higher one.
Yeah. Okay, so at this point then, I will entertain a motion to accept the bid submitted by Scott Tremblay of 3 Catalina Drive, Ansonia, in the amount of $3,500 for the 1979 Dodge Power Wagon Custom Mini Pumper. Motion by Nicole, second by Al. Under discussion, do we need to state what the who the check is made out to? Or where the money goes?
Well, no, don't really talk to.
Correct, okay. Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda, item number 16, discussion, take possible action regarding establishment of the Community Services Board. This is something that we brought up back in August, something that we decided that we would think about and then talk about at a later date, just to determine the direction that we wanted to go. And again, just to recap where we were, we have the Recreation Board and we have the Commission on the Aging, with Community Services now essentially running both of those departments. We'd had conversation about how we would like to move forward. So everyone's had about a month or so to think about this. Does anybody have any thoughts as to how they would like to move forward?
Yeah, I recommend combining them.
Combining them.
You can say that clearly. I also wanted to, the Commission on the Aging,
Mm-hmm.
they have not met this year at all.
They have not. They haven't been able to
Since
make,
May last year.
haven't been able to make a quorum. Can't find people.
I'd like to see them merged.
Are we soliciting
Every
volunteers? Are
day.
we?
Mm-hmm.
They haven't met since May 2014.
Mm-hmm. Can't force people to join.
Well, I understand that. But I mean, there are people in my age group
Are you volunteering?
who have nothing to do.
Are you volunteering? To be on the
I
board?
asked you, not me. You
I would.
Want to be on it?
Okay, Rory, how come?
Done.
Oh, stop it.
Are you serious?
I'll
Is-
do it. No,
Okay. So
I mean
that gives
it.
us 4 now, correct? We need one more? Well, that's 4 should give us a quorum.
Wait a minute.
Five,
Well-
5-person board.
Too late.
Well, Gene Loda's in Georgia.
Yeah,
Who else is on the board?
off the top of my head, I don't remember. Judy Flood, Ellen Molnar, and Mrs. Jackimowski, I believe.
Mrs.
Yeah.
Giacomo? I'll do it.
Okay, so there we go. That will be duly noted in about 3 minutes when we get to that section of the agenda.
I've got to be out of my mind.
Well, think about it. You can always decline. We won't hold you to it, but, so is it then what the thoughts of this board are when we establish the Charter Revision Commission next month to recommend to them that this is one of the issues that they address?
You know what, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I don't know how long Frank Loda's been gone. Is it 2 years or so?
Somewhere.
He told me that the charter can't be amended for 10 years.
Mm.
You can form another charter revision.
I understand that. But he told me that the charter that they revised can't be amended for another 10 years. And that was 2 years ago, whenever he was here.
I don't know what he said to me. If he said that.
He wrote it.
No, I understand. He was one of many on that charter revision commission, what I recall. You can have multiple charter revision commissions in a short period of time.
there's 2012 with the presidential.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'll take a look and see what if there's anything what he's talking about, but off the top of my head, trying to recall state statutes, I don't recall any such limitation.
All right, let me ask you this. Under the Constitution of the United States, nobody in Congress can be arrested going to and from a session of Congress. I want that in our Constitution. How about that? Why? If it's in the U.S. Constitution, why can't we have it?
Because of
Oh,
That
we're a
works.
municipality.
Right.
And the most that we can enact, or we can enact federal business, pursuant to United States law, or ordinances, or resolutions, but penal code is for state and federal. So the state crimes and
Yeah, we're getting a little off track. A little off track. That's good, though.
okay.
That's good. Okay, so community services.
And you told me you didn't know that.
I didn't know that, no, I did not know that.
Back on track.
I'd be okay with that, I can speed to and from work every day. So, I'd be all right with that. So with community service, so assuming that, that 10 years is not an issue, and Rich will look into that, and we put a charter revision commission in, is it then the feeling of this board that we would recommend to the charter revision commission to look at making that change in the charter, which would be the elimination of the recreation board and the elimination of the commission of the aging board, and combining those two into one community services board?
I'm opposed to that.
Is that where we are? Okay, so that's what we're discussing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what's everyone's thoughts on that?
I thought it was a good idea to join them together, because the other boards aren't meeting, so.
I
If we join them together, then they would at least meet and work together to ensure that everybody was.
all the community services are
Yeah,
working
but
together.
what does one thing have to do with the other?
When we created the boards, they were two separate entities, two separate operations. They're now one operation.
I understand that. Why can't, okay, you're telling me you don't have volunteers.
Mm-hmm,
That's what you're saying.
mm-hmm.
And so that's why you want to combine them?
No, no. I'm
Oh,
saying
it's
that's-
not?
No, I'm saying that's the reason why that board doesn't meet. What I'm saying is now that they were two separate operations, now they've been combined into one with the new community services department. Does it make sense to have one board that oversees the entire operation? That's what I'm saying.
So you're going to call it community services?
Well, that's what I would recommend to the Charter Revision Commission. What they do and what the people ultimately decide is up to them. But that would be my recommendation to them. But that needs to come from the seven of us. I mean, when Paul's
All
here.
right, and let me
So-
just ask you this. Who on the original committees would be appointed to serve?
We would reappoint it like a new committee.
A new committee?
Yeah, we would reappoint everyone. I believe there's 7 on recreation and 5 on, so I mean, they can turn and say, we'll make it a 9-person board. And we can probably reappoint everyone. So there's perspective from everyone.
I'm telling, 9 people are too many.
And then we can keep it at 7. I mean, that would be something that would be decided during the charter process. Man, we're just talking philosophically now. We're not,
Okay.
we're not
all
building
right,
it. We're
all
just,
right.
we're still at the 30,000-foot level. So is everyone comfortable with making that recommendation? Karen, you comfortable or no? You okay?
I'm okay.
All right, anybody else have any issues? Rich, you have no issue with that? I mean, it goes through the regular charter process.
We go through the regular charter revision process, and we hopefully develop a resolution to commence it, and we're ready to do it. Interestingly enough, over here, I'm sitting here looking through charter online, you have a provision in the charter 16.4, which tends to require a charter, we look at the charter every 5 years.
Oh, so we're right there.
Preclude us from looking at it any sooner?
No.
You have to just look at it at least every 5 years, correct?
Okay.
If you're interested.
Didn't realize that either. Okay.
Great.
Okay, all right, so good. We'll move on to item number 17, discussion, take possible action regarding LED light conversion. Rich and Rory.
I'll just give a little bit of an update that, if you recall, when Franklin had me do the presentation, we asked them if they've done this anywhere in the state, what communities, one of the communities that they said that they were working in was in London. I reached out to London, the town attorney there, someone I know. He provided me with a copy of the contract that they entered into with Franklin to do the energy audit. That's the state of that. And he also has some of the very same concerns that I did, given the competitive bid concern, and the way they dealt with it in New London is their town council, city council,
Excuse me.
waived the competitive bid requirement. That's how they dealt with that. He has some other concerns too, based upon the language in the contract. Rory is reaching out to them. They didn't provide us with that, the audit contract, and he's reaching out to them to get copies of it.
Oh.
Thank you. Unless it's, we'll have some checks in. That's where we're at.
Okay, so
That's where I am.
we're still in a little bit of a holding pattern, but
Yeah, forgive me, but I thought we already decided this,
decided what?
the LED.
Well, we decided that we want to move forward. We're not sure how we're going to move
Oh,
forward.
okay, all right.
Yeah, I think everyone is on board. I mean, I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but we're all on board with that. It's just a
Okay.
matter of, remember, it was kind of the chicken before the egg
Yeah,
thing.
the
We had
egg,
to get the
yeah.
audit, and
Got it.
then we couldn't use the audit, so.
And you have the bid requirement
Right.
to impact on the structure of how we.
So again, with this discussion, we knew that this was going to push this out a little bit, that we'd probably be looking at springtime to get this going, to give us the opportunity to properly bid it and do everything that we wanted to do.
Okay.
So, okay. All right. Item number 18, discussion and take possible action regarding manufacturer's exemption ordinance. Okay, we being the ordinance committee, myself, Nicole and Karen, the manufacturer's exemption ordinance, and we have a few slight changes to bring back to the board in number 2, or I guess section 2. Said effective for 10/1/2015 grand list and subsequent grand list years, the deadline to meet with the Board of Selectmen for such year shall be prior to May 1st, following such assessment date of October 1st at the regularly scheduled meeting, and such meetings will be made public. As we all know, the information on the grand list is due 10 days after it's signed, which is by January 31st of each year. So we wanted to make sure that the businesses, the manufacturer's exemption ordinance, if they have any issues, that gives them the opportunity to properly react and set a meeting with us. The other thing that we changed in item number 3, effective for 10/1/2014 grand list only, the deadline to meet, and we changed the word file to meet
Yeah.
to clarify that, with the Board of Selectmen shall be prior to January 1st of 2016 at their regularly scheduled meeting, and such meeting shall be in public. So we moved that date out, because again, it's going to take a little bit of time to get this ordinance through. We should hopefully have it done by November, and that will give any company an opportunity to take advantage of this. So, other than that, those are the only changes the three of us had. I think the three of us felt
Yep.
very comfortable. We wanted to bring it back to this board. If no one has any issues whatsoever, what we wanted to do is move it forward for a public hearing to give the residents the opportunity to make comment on this ordinance. And then depending on what the residents do, that will depend on the next steps that we take. So any questions, comments, or issues from the board?
And that's September what?
Excuse me?
The public hearing?
We haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay,
That's the
sorry.
next one. Nope, not a problem. So,
Oh.
just any questions on the ordinance itself? No? Rich, anything you want to add, or you're comfortable? Okay, with that, now we'll move on to item number 19. And at this point, I'll entertain a motion to set the public hearing for the manufacturer's exemption ordinance for October 6th, 2015, at 6:45 PM in the Norma Drummer Room. Motion made by
Second.
Nicole, second by Karen. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Roy, just please make sure all the appropriate notices and everything are taken care of for that. Okay, item number 20, executive session. On your original agenda, there was an item on there that is being moved to our next meeting because not all of the participants were able to make it tonight. So I had that discussion with the union, and they are open to that. Item number 21, appointments.
No, it's grievance.
No.
So, oh, sorry, I have the updated, John, I'm sorry. All right, so we can skip item 21, we'll go to item number 22, appointments. Sorry about that. That's right. Okay, so, everybody has out their appointments, and then we may have one addition, but we'll see. All right, so Beth Carson, Downtown Committee, it's a reappointment, it's a one-year term, it expires September 4th, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Al, second by Nicole, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Patty Macco, Downtown Committee, it's a reappointment. It's a one-year term, it expires 9/4/2016.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole,
Second.
second by Karen. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. John Such, Downtown Committee, it's a reappointment, it's a one-year term, it expires 9/4/2016.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole, second by Al. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Dave Bitzow, Downtown Committee, it's a reappointment, it's a one-year term, the term expires 9/4/2016. Can I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Nicole, second by Al. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. We're going to skip over Liz, because as we know, Liz just resigned for personal reasons. Okay, next one is going to be Alexander Aspinwall, Friends of the Broad Street Park. It's a new appointment, it's a two-year term, it expires 9/1/2017.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Al. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Tom Jensen, Communication Commission, it's a reappointment. It's a three-year term, it expires 9/3/2018.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole,
Second.
second by Al. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Mike Margansky, Inland Wetlands Enforcement Officer. It's a new appointment, it's a two-year term, it expires 9/15/2017.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole,
Second.
second by Al. Just under discussion, Mike, you'll see that we'll be considering Bill's appointment as well. They will be splitting the position, and it goes to our model now of the new enforcement office that we put in place, having them work more together. So this fits right into that model. So if there's no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Bill Peck, Inland Wetlands Enforcement Officer. It's a new appointment, it's a two-year term, it expires 9/15/2017.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Al. And just one thing if I can add too, both Bill and Mike just recently received their state certification as Inland Wetland Enforcement Officers. So we have that documentation upstairs in their file. Okay, no other comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Are there any other appointments we'd like to make this evening? Karen?
Nope. What?
Commission on the Aging?
Oh,
Do you want to do it?
me? I can't appoint me.
Well, this board can, but we'll only do it if it's something that you want to have happen. Do you want to think about it and let us know? We can do it at our next meeting?
No, I'd like to do
You like to
it.
go? Okay, at this point, I'll entertain a motion to appoint Karen Stanek to the Commission on the Aging. It is a new appointment, and the term will expire, just make it 1 year from today? 2 years from today? We'll do one, and then we can always re-up
Who
it.
am I replacing?
You would be replacing Gene Loda at this point.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, so it will be a one-year appointment,
okay.
and it will expire 9/15/2016.
Yeah, I'll
Have
do
a
it.
motion.
So,
Motion by Nicole, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
I'm aging.
Is that a
I
vote?
abstain.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, we already did that, sorry. Chair votes aye, motion passes 501, and please note.
Thank you.
Karen's abstention, thank you for offering to serve, Karen. Okay, item number 23, tax refunds and abatements. We have two this evening. Nicole?
Do I have the second one? Hold on.
Oh, gosh, here.
August 22nd, Board of Selectmen, from the tax collector, the following overpayments of tax payments in total of $7,681.59 need to be approved for refund in accordance with the provisions of Section 12-129 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Dana Flack Tax Office, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's just one of those nights.
Yes, it is.
Okay, could I have a motion to entertain, or can I have a motion to accept, excuse me, the August 27, 2015 tax collector's report as
So
presented?
moved.
Motion by Karen, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Next one, Nicole.
September 10th, 2015, to the Board of Selectmen from the tax collector, the following overpayments of tax payments in total of $1,410.08 need to be approved for refund in accordance with the provisions of Section 12-129 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Dana Flack Tax Office.
Thank you for battling through that, Nicole. We appreciate that. Okay, at this point, I'll entertain a motion to accept the September 10, 2015 tax collector's report as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Nicole,
Second.
second by Karen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Okay, next item on the agenda is correspondence. We have a few things under correspondence. The first is the letter from Culture and Arts with regards to the obelisk. Am I saying that right? I got it right eventually. And the moving of that. We also have Dennis's retirement letter. We have a letter from Liz Conrad regarding her retirement. Excuse me, regarding her stepping down from the board and not seeking reappointment. We also have a letter from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in response to the letter that we sent forward with regards to the issues that took place at the Housing Authority over the summer. You can see their response there. I did also share this with Executive Director Kaiser, and as you can see in there, that they are actually in the process now of applying for a designation to allow them to have elderly-only housing. So we'll see how that goes, but that is something that they apply through HUD with. I know that they have applied in the past, and they have not received that designation. So, but that is up to them how they handle that. We also have the September 1st, 2015 progress report on the roads. That was a part of your packet at the last meeting, but I wanted to make sure that everyone did receive that. And then we have the check register. So that is our correspondence. Okay, at this point, we will go into item number 26, which would be public comment. So is there any public comment? Jamie, you know the drill.
Jamie Brennan, 124 Bungay Road. Just like to make a comment on the addressing of raising the first selectman's salary. It's not specifically the amount, but if you're looking for, to increase better candidates, better people out of business, whatever, I think the big factor there is that somebody has to walk away from a good job to maybe have a 2-year job. You know, by raising it $15,000, you're really not increasing the potential of corporate level type management. You know, who's going to, unless they're ready to retire anyways, then at that point you can walk away from your job. But I just wanted to mention on that. And also urge this commission that as long as you're revisiting the charter review thing, I would encourage you to urge the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Inland Wetlands Commissions to update their regulations as they've clearly set precedent over the last 2 years. One regarding their open space and planning and zoning, and Kurt's familiar with the inland wetlands as he's been participating in it. You know, but we've said it by precedent, better to just change the regulations than go through the legal battle and incur that money. And just, you know, maybe in Selectmen's comments. So my basic math from sitting here, the town's exposure is like $180,000 on that Greenway, and it's to be put into the upcoming budget. Maybe somebody can comment, does that get paid up front? Does the Fed money come in first, or how does that work? Is there something that needs to be a line item that's incorporated into the next budget? That 180 grand based on $900,000 of overall cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Yeah, you speak into the microphone so it picks it, or else it doesn't pick you up.
Come on, you want to be heard, you love it.
I am sitting here so I can be seen on the video.
Sean Walsh, 126 Pearl Street, Seymour, Connecticut.
Are you gonna sing?
I had to do it.
Okay.
It's just one of those nights.
Couple
one
quick
of those
things.
nights.
I brought up on a couple different occasions, I know everybody's excited about the LED lighting, but one of the things that I've still not gotten an answer back for is the research. These LED lightings have been used a lot down south with the lighting conversions for the stop lighting. There was a lot of problems with blowing snow. LED lights on the surface do not create heat. So if you get blowing snow, it will stick to the filaments and stick there and block out the light. So if we could research if whatever filament we use, some of them do have a device that blows the hot air from the back of the filament to heat them, but that could be a very large problem if we put streetlights up and then the first time it snows you can't see anything because they're covered with blowing snow. Again, that was a problem that did happen with the regular stoplights for the first couple of years until they were redesigned. So I just wanted to make sure that that gets checked before we switch over to these things. Another thing, I had to go to meet the teacher night, so I wasn't here earlier, but the Greenway, I've seen the design and I haven't yet to get here to comment. My concern is that we have some facet of security cameras slated for that because the seclusion offered by the highway and the proximity to pretty much nothing but the bridge is asking for problems there. Derby, Shelton, and Stratford have all had problems with vandalism because the greenways wind up in similar secluded areas. And the other thing I would like to do, I've been on Public Works Board for a very long time with Dennis Rosem, and I would like to publicly, he's not here unfortunately, just thank him for his service. There were some good and bad points, that we went through, good and bad times, but he was a great guy to work with. He still is a phenomenal guy. So I just want to thank him publicly for the work he did for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Hearing no other public comment, we will close public comment. We'll move on to Selectmen's public comment. Karen?
Hi.
Hi.
I'd just like to thank you guys for voting for the Culture and Arts Commission. They spent an awful lot of money on that statue. They put a lot of thought into it with regard to the history of Seymour. And I'm going to stick my neck out here. I don't think anybody has the right to tell them they can't put it where they want to put it.
Well, now that I can address that, Karen, that was never the case. I met with Al yesterday and had the conversation with him. He was just, the only concern that Al and Bill Peck had, because it's a park, so it's the discretion of parks, Bill Peck wanted to make sure that the waterfall was not blocked. That was the view of the waterfall. Everyone is fine with the corner. I had conversation with Mrs. Bellavance, Mrs. Simpson, everyone's fine. They wanted to make sure it was dark enough so that way if it's lit, it sticks out. So there's no issue. And it's not Al Yagamane's park. There's no, it's Parks that runs it. I get complaints from Al Yagavane all the time because he has to go through a process with Parks to apply to spend money and to do different things. He doesn't like it, but that's the process that we put in place, and that's the process that he has to follow.
Okay,
I shouldn't say he, the board, their committee.
okay. I would just like to say that months ago, I asked if we could name that park after somebody, as opposed to calling it by its address.
Mhm.
And if you think about it, I said that. I said, I don't think it ought to be the Broad Street Park. I think it should be somebody. Now, I don't care if it's somebody in Seymour or if it's George Washington. I don't care. But I don't think it ought to be called the Broad Street Park.
Well, as we know, we can, as a board, if we want to name a park after someone, we have the ability to do that. But, I mean, I think we need some suggestions, but I think it needs to be strongly considered the direction that we go. I think we named, the Fish Bypass after Mr. Pollock. I think that was well-deserved. The overpass after the Jackimowskis, I think that was well-deserved. So I'm not saying no to you, but I think we need to come up with something.
But my point is, even if we don't have even if we don't have somebody in Seymour, like Anna Presti or somebody we want to name it after, I think it ought to have a name rather than an address.
Well, unfortunately, we had a tradition in Seymour of Bungay School and
But you,
Broad Street Park. I know what you're saying.
we had this conversation.
Right, but we need to come up with something. I mean, you think of what you want, and you can make a recommendation to the board, and the board can certainly discuss it.
I mean, if you want to call it Lincoln Memorial Park,
Listen, I'd be all for naming it after myself.
or me.
Well, I'm sorry, I thought of it. So,
Name it after Frank.
After
So-
Fred Stanek?
I think we could probably get we can get some traction for Fred.
Okay, moving
So-
moving on.
But do you understand my point?
We do, but you have to come up with something. So if you want to think of some names and come up with something, I'm sure the board would consider it,
I
absolutely.
mean, Seymour is named after a governor.
Mhm.
So why can't we name a park after somebody?
We can name a park after anyone we like. But I'm saying you gotta come up with something to suggest.
All right, I'm going to work on it.
Okay. All right, anything else, Karen, you want to add, or no?
I think I'm pretty good.
You think you're pretty good? Okay, Nicole?
Go ahead, Nicole.
It's just one of those nights.
I'd like to congratulate Dennis on his retirement.
Oh, me too. Me too. I forgot to
Yep, no.
say that.
Thank you for his many years of service. I
Service.
hope he enjoys his retirement. Also, a quick update on the turf. The bleachers have the fittings and the bleachers are in the process of being installed. The turf is just about done. I think they were putting the infill down today. They should be done tomorrow. And they'll start with the D zones, doing the rest of the construction and the handicap accessible ramp. So we're still on schedule.
Excellent.
That is all. Thank you.
Project looks great. You guys are doing a great job with it.
Thank you.
Al?
Just looking forward to the Pumpkin Festival this weekend, and I've seen pictures of the new turf field. Looks great. Kudos to Nicole, and as chair of that board and that committee, can't wait to see the finished product. So,
Thank you, Al. Anne Marie?
I received a email from a resident on First Avenue
Mm-hmm.
wanting to know about the sidewalks. Is it their responsibility to repair the sidewalks, or is it Public Works' responsibility to repair the sidewalks because paving got done in that area? I mean, the sidewalk is pretty bad.
Yeah, no, I spoke to the resident.
Yeah.
Now it's we checked it up. It's their responsibility in front of their house. If they want to do it, the town will pay 1/3. We did do some sidewalks in that area. with the steep grant along Washington Street, or Washington Ave.
Avenue.
Ave. We did make it up to First Ave. We only had so much money. They did repair or replace some sidewalks as a part of the road project, but it wasn't every sidewalk. It was just certain spots where it had to be done depending on the reclaiming process and things like that. And I don't pretend to fully understand all that. That's a decision made by the engineer. But I did speak with that resident about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good to see that there's new businesses investing in the town and building new businesses, and phase 2 is going to be taking place soon. In question to the park and to Karen's comment, what was the name of Broad Street Park prior to it being Broad Street Park? Wasn't
Didn't
it
have a name.
Champions Park? I could have
they
sworn I
did.
saw a sign that said Champions Park, but I'm just asking.
The coaches put
Yeah.
that sign up.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever official.
Yeah, it was never official. The coaches put that sign up.
Because I always thought that was the name of the park.
Nope.
Congratulations, Nicole, on the great job with the turf. That looks pretty awesome. And I want to congratulate Dennis as well as on his retirement. It was great working with him. I didn't sit on the committee that long, but the time I did work with him was good.
Excellent, thank you, Anne Marie.
That's it.
Len?
Yeah, actually, I'll add my voice to those congratulating publicly Dennis for his years of service. I served with him for 1 year on the Board of Public Works, and I can say that he was very responsive whenever I had an issue, and he was always there to answer my questions when I had some for him. Very quickly turn around on anything. So, thank you for his service, and I'll reiterate what everybody else has said as well. My other issue this week is this letter that we received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development with regard to the issue at the Seymour Housing Authority at the Callahan House, I believe. This is an issue that's been going on in Seymour for some time. I know I dealt with it when I was a state rep. I know, I believe my father dealt with it when he was a state representative. I know that, I believe Rosa DeLauro has actually been in town to discuss it with the residents. Quite a lot of it has to be dealt with at the federal level. So I'm under no illusion that the Seymour Housing Authority can find a solution to this problem, which is, I will say, anecdotally, of course, but with my experience, is getting worse every year. And this act of violence is an illustration of that. What I wanted to bring up and just state publicly, I know we don't necessarily have authority over the Seymour Housing Authority and how they operate. I was very unhappy to see that the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development included in their letter that the Seymour Housing Authority agency plan, which was due in May, is now 4 months overdue. HUD points out that this plan includes policies that are, I quote, an essential component of preventing and mitigating the issues raised in our letter. I don't know if I'd agree with that conclusion. I think that's an easy cop-out from the federal government out of a very difficult issue. However, that being said, I think the Seymour Housing Authority should have every single I dotted, T crossed, and make sure we are absolutely in line with what they require. If we don't do that, then we are just setting ourselves up for failure immediately. And I find that incredibly disappointing. That's all I have.
I don't disagree. Thank you, Len. Just, sure,
Can
okay.
I just say?
Yeah.
When my dad ran the housing authority, you had to be a certain age and, certain qualification to live in the housing authority. And now they've lowered that standard to include handicapped, which this is not a criticism.
I'd be careful with the choice of words, though.
Okay.
They didn't lower the standard, they just
Well,
allow
they've
disabled.
increased
Yeah.
the standards.
Yeah.
And, I'm not really sure that's a good idea.
I believe it's federal.
Yeah, it's a federal.
I understand it's a federal thing.
It's a civil rights issue.
Well, I understand it's a civil rights issue, but the point is that if you're going to mix those,
There are different cultures
Hey,
involved,
different
and
cultures.
it makes things
There
very
you go.
tense. Absolutely. It certainly makes things very tense.
yes.
It's something I had some discussions with Dave Kaiser, the executive director, and some member of his board as to how, what plan we could have, how we can look at it. Do we put the young disabled in one house? Do we put the elderly in another? If that's the case, where's the cutoff? What if, how does that work through? So there's a lot of moving parts to it. I know it's something that they're looking at. I don't know if there's one easy solution. I know things need to be done. I think we all agree with that. I just don't know if there's one easy solution. So I'll be interested to see how the Housing Authority moves forward and what comes of it.
But I'm saying, if you're gonna mix that population, you're gonna have a problem.
I don't think anyone disagrees with that, but, to Len's point, the law is what the law is, and we have to do what, I shouldn't say we, they have to do what the law dictates to them. So,
I don't understand. Never mind.
okay. And then just, I'm going to talk in general to the board as a whole, and people can take out of my comments what they take out of it. With regards to reevaluation, as you know, we do reevaluation every few years in the town. There are state requirements that dictate as to when we have to do that. We budget for it. As we all know, when reevaluation is done, it will be for October 1st of 2015. Those taxes will go into effect July 1st of 2016 with the next tax year. It follows the normal process. Residents will still have the same ability to challenge their assessments with assessment appeals once the grand list is signed, and that is usually for January 31st. So just some general information. With regards to the workers' compensation inter-service fund, Rich is kind of banging out some last-minute details with that. We've had conversations with the Board of Education as to how we're going to move forward. I can't speak with 100% accuracy as to why this situation arose with the Board of Education. I can assure you it was not something that was just dropped in our laps 2 weeks before the end of the year. They being the Board of Education, was aware of these concerns back, I want to say, as early as November of 2014. They had some, without getting into details, some significant claims that, quite honestly, you really can't budget for, because they happen when they happen, unfortunately. Do I think the Board of Education intentionally underfunded that line? I absolutely do not. Do I think that potentially they should have put some more money in? I do. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there. Even had they put in the amount that I think that they should have put in, it was nowhere near the exposure that they had during that year. So, as a community, on the municipal side, we did have a larger surplus. We're going to use that larger surplus as well as the surplus we had specifically in workers' comp to help absorb those losses on the Board of Education side, and then we will have to either dip into fund balance or, actually I sat down with Bill Zawicki, myself, Doug, and Tony. We came up with an idea that we'll present to this board as to how we're going to move forward. But the inter-service fund is absolutely the way to go. On the town side, in good years, we were able to build up a reserve. The Board of Education is not. If we want to plan for the long term, combining this into one fund is absolutely the way to go. It was recommended to us by the auditors. It was something that Doug Thomas and Rick Belden had been discussing even beforehand. We need to start working together on these financial issues. It just makes the town stronger as a community. And then with regards to the Greenway, we actually had put in our debt service projections about $225,000 to cover this. So those costs are already built into the budget. There will be no additional spike in the debt service to cover any of this. We did all of that planning in advance, and that is built into the debt service projections going forward. So that was just me talking out loud, just to the board. And Rich, any comments? Comments from you? Okay. With that, then, I will entertain a motion to...
Second.
Motion by Anne Marie. I think Karen leans you at the line. Second by Karen. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. You'll never beat Anne Marie. Marked meeting closed at 9:17 p.m. Thankfully, you didn't finish your comment and just drop the mic.
I want to sing the record of the Edward Fitzgerald.
Oh, I love that song.
How about Mike? Mike,
love that
oh, I don't think you were here. Mike goes, do you mind if I go mobile? Takes the thing off, goes walking over there. One of those nights. I have nothing new to report, but it's something that, Neil O'Leary,
What's that?
Neil O'Leary, the mayor of Waterbury, is really pushing this stuff, because he wants